Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary, Tim Wood.
Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad. We wish we would have known about these things.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Today is your opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. You've got an 87% chance of success. Well, son, that's a 13% chance of failure.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
Welcome in to this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. Alongside Tim Wood, he's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Tim and I are so happy to have you with us on the show. And of course, we hope you are having a fantastic day. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to continue the conversation with Tracey Kendall Wilson, Regional Director of Alzheimer's Tennessee. If you're a loyal listener to the show, you've heard a couple of snippets of that interview. We'll continue the conversation in just a few moments. And later on, we're going to answer some of your listener submitted questions regarding your retirement. All of that and much, much more. But we can't go any further without saying hello to the star of the show, the man of the hour, my good buddy, Tim Wood. And Tim, a pleasure as always, sir. I hope you're having a great one.
I am, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone listening's doing well, enjoying, starting to get into the dog days of summer. I mean, it's getting hotter and hotter, and it is what it is, right? That's the season we're in.
Yeah, and it's a friendly reminder how fast this year is going as well. I mean, here we are, June. I mean, the 4th of July celebrations are right around the corner. I feel like Memorial Day was like 15 minutes ago, don't you?
I feel like Christmas was 45 minutes ago. I mean, it seems like we just put the Christmas tree up, literally. I mean, it's crazy.
So what you're saying is
it's almost time to get it back out.
I was going to say, you haven't taken it down yet?
Shouldn't have. Yeah, there's someone in my neighborhood, actually, that still has their Christmas decorations up.
No.
I'm not kidding.
Well, at this rate,
I'm not kidding.
You might as well leave them up at this rate, right?
At this point, I think that's what he's doing. I mean, he'd never done it before, and I think life just got so busy, and he's just like, you know what? It's already June, July. Let's just let it go.
You're ready for Christmas in July. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, well, why put it away at this point? But again, when you start talking like that, Tim, it's a friendly reminder that the older we get, it seems like the faster the years zip right on by. So for folks tuning in to the show today, obviously we got some great stuff to get to. But again, it's a sort of a reality check as well, where if you've been putting off your financial planning, if you've been thinking about getting ready for retirement and you haven't sat down with someone like yourself, boy, no time like the present, because life gets busier and busier every year, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there isn't a person on this planet getting younger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, none of us want to think about the eventual end, but it's coming for all of us. And yeah, making a plan today is going to be better than making it tomorrow. Absolutely 100% of the time. And especially if you have to start being concerned about your mental facilities and what's going to happen, because so many people, like we've said before, you either know someone or know of someone that has had either dementia or Alzheimer's. And that's why we had this conversation with Tracey Kendall Wilson and why it's so important and timely. And here's another piece of that right here.
Tracey, how would you explain Alzheimer's in simple terms? And then maybe what the difference is between Alzheimer's and dementia?
I think for the majority of people, Alzheimer's disease is going to start off as simple short-term memory loss. And that's the challenging part, because we all forget things on a daily basis, right? Do we forget and then remember that we forget? Does the forgetfulness affect our life on a grand scale from day to day? And if the answer is no, then it may be something a little deeper than just normal forgetfulness. The number of times that I'm almost home and I remember that I was supposed to stop at the store and pick something up, you can't even count or number. It's like
every
the stars.
Yeah. Every day.
So does that affect our daily life? And if the answer is no, then it probably is something that we just have to have a little more grace with ourselves and write a note before we leave the house. Now, I will say what is not as commonly known is there is a atypical type of Alzheimer's disease that starts out more personality-based changes. And that's what people really can't handle. Most people expect all dementia subtypes to have some connection to amnesia. So the forgetfulness, you forget things, you misplace things, those types of things. And there are so many more people that are experiencing types that have nothing to do with forgetfulness, especially in the beginning, but they're very personality changing based. And that really throws people off, especially in a culture sometimes that we're just looking for people to do the wrong thing. So I will say the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia is dementia technically is not a diagnosis. It just explains a group of symptoms that can include forgetfulness, but not always.
Interesting. My mother's personality changed. While you were saying that, when we went to move her from Florida to South Carolina in assisted living, she would be happy one moment, and then 20 minutes later, she'd be super sad. And 20 minutes later, she'd be super angry. And that was not my mother.
Right.
My mother was mostly a joyful person, unless one of her children did something bad.
Yeah. And then ready to tell you about it.
And then she was pointing her finger at you, and she was angry as all get out. But she would just constantly up and down 24 hours a day. And it never clicked until you just said that.
And like I said, I tend to see people, now don't get me wrong, when someone forgets, they've asked a question and they've asked us the same question for the 12th time, there is some stress that is involved in that. But what I can say is when it's this person that you've had this wonderful relationship or not with throughout your life, that all of a sudden you're walking on eggshells around them, that causes a lot of stress. And so what I see people, to go back to Tim's point of getting help and that not being giving up, I think so many times whether we get help or whether we don't hinges on physical things that the person is still able to do or not able to do, when our mental health and burnout should absolutely be factored into that. And when you've got a person that's swinging like a pendulum back and forth, which is very common, that is definitely when we can use some help to sort of diffuse that situation or to get the attention taken off of us.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about either dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever? I mean, what are the things that you hear that just every day make you go, oh my God, this again?
It is inevitable, I think, is one of the biggest things. You know, I'll have a educational booth out somewhere at a health fair or at a give back night at a restaurant or something like that. And people will look at my tablecloth and be like, ugh. I've gotten that reaction before. It's like, I don't want to know anything about that.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's inevitable. I get a lot of comments like, well, you know, I'm 86. What do you expect? And well, not dementia, not Alzheimer's disease, because it's not guaranteed. Also, if we don't know about it, it will not affect me. So I'm not going to research it. I'm not going to know a little bit about it, because if I don't know about that, then it's not going to affect our life. And I think the other biggest thing is that everybody with a dementia is going to get ornery. I'll use that word since we're in Tennessee. You know, I've had people ask me, when will my husband get to the angry stage? And what I really like to tell people is there is no angry stage. There can be a dementia behavioral expression that is anger, but 86% of the time, the root of that can be changed very easily. And so there's no stage where a person gets angry or difficult to deal with. And I think that's the other big thing that people really think, but need to know that it's not real, because that causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of trouble and heartache before that is necessary.
And that reminds me, another one of the things that people think, if I just don't research it, that's not going to happen, is long-term care. People on this show hear me talking about long-term care all the time, and over 70% of people are going to need some form of long-term care in their life, but yet people just want to ignore that I don't think about it, it's not going to happen to me.
ignore it, and I'm sure you all see this a lot as well, they're misinformed at who pays and when.
Oh, yeah.
The number of people that think Medicare, because Medicare is a great product.
It is.
Sometimes.
Overall.
Yeah. And it does pay for a lot of things without a whole lot of question or a lot of appeal, those types of things. But in a very small nutshell, which I'm sure you expound on all of the time on your show, Medicare doesn't pay for custodial care. And I think a lot of people still think it does.
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, there's no part of long-term care that's covered under Medicare. That's one of the things people hear me talk about all the time because they think it does. So anyway, yeah, so is that all the big misconceptions that you hear, or are there really anything else?
The big ones. I would say the big ones, that kind of covers a lot of them.
Well, Tim, it's a great conversation you had with Tracey Kendall Wilson. That's just a very small portion of it. For those folks who want to hear the entire interview, where can they find it?
Best place to find it is YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search the @ Safe Money Retirement. That'll bring you to our page. Not only is there that, there's that entire video interview. You can watch us interview her, right there. We've got the whole thing produced. It's an hour long. There's literally hundreds of other videos on there. Snippets of our show every week, other things. I just published a thing a couple of weeks ago that was on Social Security and when's the best time to take it and how should you take it and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of really, really great information right there on that YouTube channel.
Well, if you are concerned that maybe it could affect your retirement, and obviously we know one or two sudden health issues can really throw a plan completely out of whack, Tim Wood, the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary of Safe Money Retirement, is just a phone call away. And folks, if you'd like to start planning for all those unknowns when it comes to your retirement, 800-913-SAFE. That's how you can reach Tim and his team. Again, 800-913-7233. Online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. And Tim, for our loyal listeners, we know we started a little feature just a few weeks back about listener submitted questions via email. If you'd like to get involved in the show, the email address is info@safemoneyretirement.com. And Tim, I think there was a really interesting email that came in just a couple of days ago. A listener sent a note in saying their next door neighbor saw their retirement just completely devastated. I mean, wiped out in 2008 and 2009. So Tim, for our listeners who may share similar concerns, maybe they're getting closer to retirement, they're 2, 3, 4 years away. How can you help them avoid a repeat, maybe a similar fate to what our listener described in that email?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got so many clients, and I mean, my goodness, we all, talking about dementia, we all know someone like that. We all almost also know someone that either was devastated by the 08 and 09, or you can go back and go to the crash between 2000 and 2004. I mean, either one of those. For those of you that have read my book, if you haven't, get a free copy of my book. You need to read it. But my dad lost 75% of his retirement in the first 4 years. He retired in 2000, and we all know what happened to the market, while at the same time he was taking money out because he had retired. And that's what you do, is you take money out that you've saved. Mm-hmm. Here is the answer to the question. And by the way, yeah, keep sending those in. We seem to be getting more and more. I think people really like this question and answer thing. Keep sending them in, info@safemoneyretirement.com. We'll keep answering them. The answer is make sure what you absolutely have to have for retirement is protected. Mm-hmm. That's it. Bottom line, when I sit down with every single client, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure you have enough guaranteed lifetime income to cover you and your spouse for the rest of your life that you can't outlive. Impossible to outlive. So you've heard Kevin and I both say it. You may sit down with your financial guy and he say, well, you've got a 96.1% chance of success. Well, that's a 3.9% chance of failure. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm not playing Russian roulette with my retirement. If you want to, good luck to you. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we're going to do is sit down and make sure you've got a guaranteed income you can count on and that it's enough. And then we may also look at a couple smaller income plans that you can turn on way in the future to basically help, curb inflation. Then after that, the next question I'm going to have is, okay, out of all the rest that you've got, how much of it do you want to make sure that you're not going to lose if another major market event happens? Doesn't need to be all of it. I usually tell people I don't want it to be all of it. It doesn't need to be. If you want to leave some money where you can still play in the market, knock yourself out. I play in the market. I've got my own accounts. I've literally got, thousands of shares of different stocks. But that's my money that if the market were to crash, I've still got my money protected over here for retirement. So it's having that differentiation between here's the money I've got to have for retirement. We need to have that protected. We need to get an income plan. And then what else we need to protect? We need to put into some sort of a growth plan that has no chance of losses, no fees, and is going to allow you just to grow that money. And then anything on top of that, that's kind of the gravy. That's the part that you can play with. But making sure what you've got to have for retirement's protected. That's absolutely job number one. That's the most important thing.
You want to learn more? Pick up the phone. Give Tim and his team at Safe Money Retirement a call today. And for our first 5 callers, Tim's not only going to schedule time to speak with you and start putting a plan together for your finances, he'll also throw in a complimentary copy of his book. It's called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. You want to learn more? Let's get the conversation started today. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, when we return, how to put a plan together that allows you to spend in your retirement. Plus, when's the last time you took a look at your beneficiaries? If it's been a while, Tim will tell you how he can make sure they are all up to date as we continue with this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show right after this.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck. Do you still have all of your retirement money at risk in the market? Most know that I don't do that. It's way too dangerous, in my opinion, at least. The fact the market could fall off a cliff tomorrow, yet many don't have an expert you can trust. Let me tell you about Tim Wood. Now, he's the owner of Safe Money Retirement. That's a certified financial fiduciary and a best-selling author. I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that he and his team can help you plan your own guaranteed lifetime income streams to cover you and your spouse and grow your money while protecting it from a market crash. Go to safemoneyretirement.com/Beck or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I just don't trust anyone, and so do your own homework with Tim at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and book your free discovery call with Tim online or call 800-913-SAFE and get started today.
Welcome back in to this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. He's Tim Wood, the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. I'm Kevin McAlpin. Tim and I are so glad you're with us once again on the show, and we hope you're having an outstanding weekend. So, Tim, I know you and I have talked about the great wealth transfer and how it's well underway. Well, it's estimated over the next 2 decades, $90 trillion will be passed on from older generations. Now, Bill Perkins wrote a book called Die with Zero, and he says what's being transferred, it's not just money, it's trillions in unlived experiences. He says the fear of running out of money has people hoarding wealth at the expense of going out and living their best lives. He summed it all up by saying, do you want to be the richest person in the graveyard? And Tim, I think that, if people embrace that idea, do you see it changing how they may go about planning their finances?
100%, brother. 100%. I call it underliving your retirement.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I mean, people in my family, and you and I were just talking offline, people in your family, this is what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're hoarding. And I get it. I get it that your parents or, in some cases, grandparents lived through the Great Depression, and there were times where people didn't have anything, so you want to be careful. But you also don't want to underlive your retirement and, like you just said, be the richest person in the graveyard. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I work with people on is not overliving their retirement or underliving their retirement. But why would you want to just withdraw a certain amount, which realistically is probably about 2.25% to maybe 2.5% that you can do safely these days? Mm-hmm. Even if you were to go to 4%, like the old William Bengen rule of 4%, even if you took that out, why would you want to do that when there are plans out there that pay significantly more than 4% guaranteed for the rest of your life that you can't outlive? Mm-hmm. Because if you know you've got a guaranteed paycheck coming in this month, guess what? makes it easier to spend it because there's one coming next month. And then next month makes it easier to spend it because there's one coming the month after that. And it allows you to live and do the things that you want to do because you don't have to worry about running out of money. And it's really not so much about running out of money. It's about not having enough income. That's what all this is about, people. It's about income. There comes a point where, I mean, especially as you get older, if someone has to go into long-term care, that's not something they want to do, but it's something they need to do. And you need to have enough income to cover it. That's really what it's all about. But yeah, the die with zero rule is basically about spending all your money intentionally, whether it's on yourself or loved ones or charity or whatever. It's while you're alive to maximize your life experiences. And I'm totally fine with that. But again, in my opinion, you need to go a step further than that. And how are we going to do that? Dying with zero is fine, but making sure that you've got a plan in place to pass along what you want. That doesn't mean you're not passing anything along to your loved ones. That means you're not just dying with a bunch of money in accounts and then it's going to go to probate and then it's going to wind up being split up and now all your loved ones have got to pay all the taxes within 10 years and it just becomes this big burden. It's doing things intentionally and making sure that you're ready. Essentially, if you die with money left over, it essentially represents potential years that you spent working for free as wealth you never got to use. So let's make sure you're using it. And let's make sure that what you want to pass on is there to pass on. And again, it's just a matter of getting you into the right type of IRA plans for that. The biggest thing in this is longevity risk, and that's why people really worry about this. And that's the biggest risk that's on the table, right? And we need to make sure we take that off the table. That is absolutely the biggest concern. Because like I said, you can get into a plan that guarantees you a certain amount of money that you can't outlive. You don't have to be scared that you're going to outlive your money, and you're not going to be scared that you're taking too much money out, because these plans pay you a guaranteed percentage as long as you're breathing, irregardless of what happens in the market. It doesn't make any difference what happens in Washington. Doesn't make any difference what's happening with world events. It's going to pay you a guaranteed amount. That's going to allow you to take longevity risk off the table. And then having a few more of those accounts that basically take inflation risk off the table, now you can breathe easy. Now we can enjoy retirement. Now we can talk about, okay, what are we going to do to leave your family what you want? What are we going to do in these other situations? Because now the stress is off the table. Lastly, following the rule to the letter of the law is probably quite unrealistic. Adopting parts of it, you know, kind of like spending more on experiences, gifting money earlier, and breaking free from unnecessary frugality could lead to a more fulfilling retirement. But again, it's about how you do that. It's not about just withdrawing more, because if you withdraw even more and you don't have anything guaranteed, I literally just had a client the end of last week that contacted me and said, you know what, I've just been taking way too much out of my accounts. And they went from a mid-six-figure account to now I'm down to a little over 100,000 and I'm in retirement. What am I going to do? Well, I don't know. Well, let's look and see what we can do. But you should have contacted me back when you had 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, because we could have gotten you probably more than you were taking out in guaranteed income, and you wouldn't have to worry about it ever again. So it's really more about the plan. I like the book. I like the idea. We want to make sure people don't underlive their retirement or overlive it by withdrawing too much. But it's all about making sure you're in the right plan so neither of those things happen.
Well, if you are at or near retirement, maybe you're newly retired and you've got some fear, some FOMO of missing out on those bucket list items you've been dreaming about for years, let Tim Wood and his team at Safe Money Retirement start putting together a plan that allows you the freedom to spend in your retirement years. If you'd like to learn more, also pick up a complimentary copy of his book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, if somebody listening today is dealing with a divorce, you may assume everything just gets updated automatically, including who inherits your retirement accounts. However, that is not necessarily always the case. Saw an article on Morningstar.com highlighting a situation where a man thought he removed his ex-wife from his 401k. Matter of fact, he faxed in written instructions to do it, but because he didn't follow the plan exactly step by step, she stayed listed as the beneficiary, and as you can imagine, she ended up getting the money. So this is a friendly reminder that estate planning, Tim, it comes down to details that you just simply can't overlook. So talk to our listeners about maybe some other surprises, and more importantly, how you can help them watch out for those so they're not caught off guard later in life.
Unfortunately, I've had clients that had this happen, Kevin. In my book, I talk about, this was years ago now. Short version, I had a lady come in absolutely in tears. She was only in her early 50s, and her husband of 22 years, I think, that number may not be right, but for a long time, just passed from a heart attack out of nowhere. And she thought they had life insurance and 401k and all this stuff, but he had been married before. And he never changed any of the beneficiary documents because there's always tomorrow, right?
Sure.
Until there isn't. So, yeah, this is a huge thing. It's one of the reasons that I do annual reviews with every client, because some of the IRA plans we have, there's nothing to change every year. I mean, every plan we've got, there's not something to change every year. Some there are, but some of them there's not. But we still want to talk to our clients every year. And this is one of the reasons. Has anything changed on any of your beneficiaries? We want to make sure everything is 100% tied up. For example, have you forgot to name secondary beneficiaries? Everyone always puts down primary beneficiaries, and we certainly need to make sure that the primary beneficiaries are exactly who you want them to be and everything is good. But we also need to make sure there's secondary beneficiaries listed on there as well. Because, let's say you've listed your wife as your primary beneficiary. God forbid you and your wife go in an accident at the same time. Where do you want it to go?
Right.
If you don't have that listed, guess what? The court's going to decide. So we want to make sure that you've got your primary and your secondary beneficiaries taken care of. We also want to make sure that you are planning for incapacity. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a durable power of attorney. Not to go down this rabbit hole, a regular power of attorney, that's something that someone does just for a temporary thing. Like Kevin, if I was going to have you sign for something for me for a real estate transaction, I could sign a POA and you could sign for me for that real estate transaction if I wasn't going to be there. A durable power of attorney is something that kicks in if I get in a medical situation, or if I get to a point where I'm incapacitated or I can't take care of medical or something myself. That kicks in, and now you can take care of it for me or whoever you've named. So that's a huge thing, making sure that's taken care of, and you've got that in your arsenal. You need to have one. Who's going to be that person for you? Also, failing to update your plan over time. So this is with beneficiaries, but this is just in general. I made this note for beneficiaries, but this is in general. You need to make sure that your plan is updated. If you're right now working on a plan that's 3 years plus old, chances are extremely high there's a better plan out there for you. No matter what kind of plan you're doing, because the rates are so different now, there's a really high probability there's a better plan for you. Also, choosing the wrong person to handle your estate. That can bite you in the bad place all the time, over and over. You need to make sure that you've got the right attorney handling your estate. And you know what? Not everybody needs an estate plan. So it's just however it's set up, making sure you've got the right people on your team. And then lastly, just putting it off. Kind of like I was saying that lady, whose husband did for 20-something years put it off because he was still young, right? I mean, he's still our age. He's not going to die until the day he did. And then his first wife got everything. And legally, whoever is named as the beneficiary gets all that money. And she did. She kept it all. She kept every penny and hadn't lived with him in over 20 years.
Wow.
His new wife or his kids didn't get a thing. This is important. This is really, really, really important. You need to make sure your beneficiary documents are updated. And just one more real quick note on this, and this isn't just for any plans I do. This is for any plans, period. This is a blanket statement for anything out there. As soon as you send in a new beneficiary form, it immediately trumps the old form. immediately. So the moment they get it on fax, they get it on email, whatever, immediately all your old beneficiary information is out the window and this new form is valid. So if you're not 100% sure that your beneficiaries are set up the way you want them, contact your companies, get the beneficiary form, refill it out, and send it in. As soon as they get it, now you know it's set, because you want to make sure that stuff is the way you want it when you're gone.
So give Tim and his team at Safe Money Retirement a call today. And as we mentioned earlier, our first 5 callers from today's show, Tim's going to do that complimentary deep dive of your portfolio. He's also going to throw in a complimentary copy of his book. It's called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Online anytime. That website, once again, folks, is safemoneyretirement.com. Well, Tim, time flies when we're having fun. It has been a jam-packed, enjoyable show once again. And before we are out of time, sir, the floor is all yours for the final word.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Another great show. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Just to wrap up really quick, the things that we ended the show about, listen, make sure you've got your beneficiary documents taken care of. This is so important. You do not want to leave this world and what you want to happen not happen. And that's exactly what happens if you don't have your beneficiary documents up to date. Today is the day. If your beneficiary documents are not updated, do it now, right now. Stop this recording and do it right now. It's that important. We also talked about not underliving your retirement. You need to make a plan. You need to do it with a certified financial fiduciary, and you need to do it with guaranteed plans so you know you're not going to underlive your retirement. But the thing I want to talk about is the interview that we started this whole thing about dementia and Alzheimer's. People, again, if it doesn't affect you, thank God. If it doesn't affect anybody in your family, really thank God. I mean, there's so many blessings of people. And I've got clients that are in their 90s that are still bright and on top of it. Thank God. But so many of us know someone, and, you know, the chances are someone that's listening right now that's fully comprehending everything I'm saying, 10 years from now, you might not. You need to make sure you've got a plan. You need to know what you're going to do, who's going to take care of you, how is it going to work. That's the only way you're going to have your safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.